It must be so frustrating for the Democrats that we just don't give up. That there are still people who believe in a freedom, a free market economic system, a right to property, to bear arms, to teach your children the way you feel is best. That you should bear the fruits of your hard labor. That charity is best served when you are able to give the money directly to the charity instead of through a government that trickles it down. People that understand that overtaxing creates less money for an economy whose growth depends on discretionary spending and the ability to purchase, that is what grows an economy. My friends, the last 8 years, the economy went south, and we have seen a government that decided that since you were making less, they would take more. A lot more. Unfortunately, they also believe that if you make more, they're going to take more too. If it moves, as far as taxes, if it moves, what do? They tax it. Let's see, technically they discovered rain moves. They taxed it. When it dies, what do? Maryland is unique with its death tax. They raised the budget from $27 billion when O'Malley Brown came in to $38 billion. They robbed the transportation trust funds quite a bit. And then when they finally realized that the roads need fixing and were behind, they raised the gas tax quite a bit. They increased business taxes across the board, income taxes, sales taxes, capital gains taxes, the veterans' income, retirement income taxes, licensing fees, all licensing fees, tolls. The outgoing administration, the O'Malley Brown administration, the outgoing administration did that. Thank God it's almost over. What's really bothersome is when they come up with their own rhetoric, their own propaganda, and then you find them start to actually believe it. We saw that happen just a few weeks ago. Did you know that Maryland has a net loss of 6,500 businesses moving out of state since O'Malley Brown began their onslaught on job creators? In mid-May, just a couple weeks ago, O'Malley claimed we had the best job growth in the nation. I thought maybe he rolled up the medical marijuana bill and smoked it or something. The same day he made that claim, the Labor Department released April figures, which showed that Maryland lost a net of 6,200 jobs in April alone. It's even worse than that, and I don't think the reporter who was reporting it understood. It's worse than that because the figures showed that government jobs grew that month in Maryland by 2,400. So wait a second. If the net was 6,200, and yet we had a growth of 2,400 government jobs, we're talking about total jobs lost. 8,600 jobs, and they were all private sector. 8,600 jobs were lost. Mr. O'Malley failed to read further also. Maryland figures reported the March job figure growth was over-reported by Maryland by nearly double, and he knew it. The left wing may know how to create a government job. They do not know how they will pay for that government job, because if the private sector isn't there to pay for it, why are they increasing the jobs? And they certainly have not shown they know how to get out of the way and let the true job creators create private sector jobs. I know how to compete with Virginia. Give me that opportunity. Let me at it. I grew up hiking the hills of Howard County, playing in the Middle and the Little Patuxent Rivers. I spent many summer weekends by the bay with our family. We played on the beaches, we fished on the Eastern Shore. I hiked the mountains in Western Maryland. I played baseball in many fields across the state, and I breathed the warm, fresh night air at many an Oriole game. I worked hard on paper routes, dishwashing, bussing tables, stocking shelves, learning a craft, and in the end, starting a business here because I love Maryland. It is time to build a new Maryland. We need to build a new Maryland, one that builds a tax base that allows us to meet the needs of education, transportation, and environment. One that allows manufacturing to return in order to create entry-level and mid-level jobs. A new Maryland that helps a race of people where so many have been enslaved in dependency by a great society experiment that has failed them. We need to have that discussion, and we need to fix it. It still fails them after 50 years. Maryland can no longer divide. The best social programs are a family and a job. We can build a tax base in Baltimore so that this once great city will become a jewel by the bay that will be able to meet its needs on its own, thus allowing all the other jurisdictions to keep a lot of their own money home. I have a plan, and it makes us know that we can create an education system that does create smaller class sizes, gives teachers higher pay and planning time without it costing us a penny more. We can build a Maryland where entrepreneurship thrives, one that welcomes job creators back and encourages their investment. A Maryland government of the people that stops taking and over-regulating and distrusting your ability to use your freedom. I have a vision of what Maryland can be, a state that leads the nation in job growth and job creation, education outcomes, energy independence, technology infrastructure, a state you can afford to live in, a state you can retire in, a state that recognizes the shortcomings of the Great Society experiment and begins to empower people of all races and encourages work over welfare. It is time to build a new Maryland, one of freedom and opportunity. Here is my 10-point promise. I promise to 1, create true economic growth with my economic development and Maryland Jobs Plan, which will make Maryland a better place to do business. Thank you. It will do this by lowering our business taxes and extremely high unemployment insurance tax. By building the Maryland tax base with a concentration on building businesses in every part of the state, and especially in Baltimore, building a tax base there. All counties are sending a large amount of money to Baltimore. This will help them to keep it home while helping Baltimore meet its infrastructure needs and educational needs. We will do it by encouraging, not punishing, entrepreneurship and individual initiative. When I am governor, Maryland will no longer continue to raise taxes, increase spending, and not care that businesses and investors are leaving. They succeeded. They succeeded in creating an ever-decreasing tax base. I will bring economic growth. Number 2, I will restore good government by demanding the highest standards of ethics and conduct, creating a government that is more responsive to individuals regardless of income or party affiliation. Yes. The second thing under good government is a bill that they put in the drawer and tried not to let come out of mine for the past 2 years. I will restore good government by requiring the automatic forfeiture of retirement benefits for any elected official that is convicted of abusing their office for political gain, like Jack Johnson and others. We will restore good government by enforcing the campaign finance reform laws I helped put into place this last session. We will do it by implementing the state's transparency software that the O'Malley Brown administration cut funding to, which would allow you to follow the money and see how it's spent. I will restore good government and your trust in good government by resisting federal mandates and by removing the pressure of one-size-fits-all state mandates on local governments, because the most effective, responsible, and responsive government is government closest to the people. Promise number 3, I will balance the budget with no new taxes. This can be done by growing the tax base. It can also be achieved by requiring independent audits of all departments, agencies, including our Medicaid, welfare, and state insurance agency. Independent audits. Just over a week ago, the federal government did an audit to see if so-called stimulus money to education was spent correctly in Maryland. You saw it in the paper. They found between $540,000 and $710,000 was misused for parties, dinner cruises, and that sort of thing. That wasn't from an internal state audit. That was the federal government. Thank goodness the federal government checked. You see, our state government does internal audits, and no waste is ever found. I will bring in professional independent auditors. Governor Christie decided to do this for the health coverage, and New Jersey uncovered $700 million in misuse, fraud, and double billing because they finally decided to do an independent audit. And yesterday, Massachusetts received the results of an independent audit that found $80 million of their welfare dollars were misappropriated, much of it going to dead people. My friends, independent audits work. We will find the waste. We not only will find the waste, we will cut that waste, and flow the money more directly to intended targets. And I will also promise you this: either we cut or we level fund before we ever consider looking elsewhere. Promise number 4. Promise number 4, I'm going to reduce taxes and fees for residents. I will start off by repealing the gas tax and the rain tax. On the rain tax, challenging the EPA in court if necessary. I also have a tax cut plan that helps to generate revenue in our economy, and I've talked to many economists and they really love this idea. By allowing Maryland residents to receive a 20% sales tax credit on all purchases over $100 if the purchases are made in Maryland. When they file for their income tax returns, they supply a proof of purchase. This means you're generating and moving more money around in Maryland. Marylanders are buying from Maryland businesses, and they get this credit. This creates an incentive for Marylanders to buy Maryland goods. It helps to circulate money, and it helps to grow the economy. Promise number 4. Five, excuse me, I lost count. The first five were the longer ones. It gets short after this. Promise number 5, increase safety by enforcing existing laws, removing ineffective and overreaching laws. By reforming our prisons, and you know I had the prison reform bills that they stood in the way of, and now we find that there was all this corruption, so we understand why. By reforming our prisons to make them true rehabilitation facilities with drug and alcohol rehab, education, and financial literacy courses.
Yeah.
I had a bill to do this in 2008, 2009, and they wouldn't let it get through, and the prisons came out against it, and I couldn't figure out why, and now I understand. We will increase safety by creating and enforcing drug-free zones around community rec centers, schools, public housing, all with stiffer penalties. And by decreasing the number of I will increase the number of school resource officers each year until all schools are protected. In clinical psychology, we all recognize that there are many more sexual predators than people are aware of, and it's kind of disheartening. And in safety, I'll also increase safety by protecting our children from the encroachment of predators and those who prey on our innocence. Number 6, I will promote effective education by grading success only on outcome-based measures, not on the amount of money the state's willing to spend on education. Outcome-based. I will create a scholarship system where students that pass an entrance exam to a non-public school will receive money to attend without the state having to pay a penny more. Let me explain. Currently, it costs Maryland $13,900 each year for each pupil to educate them. The national average is $10,400. We're $13,900. By allowing a scholarship of less than half that amount, our public school teachers will have smaller classroom sizes, better pay, the state saves some money, while all students receive a more tailored education according to their abilities, according to their parents' choice. As you heard, I did volunteer work in New York City with Runaways Pushouts, a lot of kids on the streets. And I understand what's going on in some parts of Baltimore City. And I really identify with the Baltimore legislators because our hearts are breaking to see what's happening with many of the children. No hope, no family, born into welfare. And I'm proud of some people up in New York because while we're looking for things to do, they came up with an idea. And they've moved forward with it, and it's called Harlem Children's Zones. We will promote effective education even in the high crime areas by creating a Baltimore Children's Zone in the failing high crime areas modeled after the effective Harlem Children's Zone where grades and attitudes have improved immensely. And lastly, we promote an effective education. We'll do this by promoting government civics courses and financial literacy courses and the Founding Fathers documents. Students need to understand the form of government and the economic system they will be a part of, otherwise they will graduate unprepared. Now, number 7, work towards energy independence so we will not rely on the unstable governments halfway around the world. Maryland must do its part. I have a plan for transportation. We're going to be doing some policy tours come the fall with these bigger things that need a little more explanation. So I'm just being short on these last ones. But we'll change Maryland from a proactive transportation plan to a proactive transportation plan instead of the current reactive one. I have a transportation plan that can do this, and you will hear of it during those policy tours. And then number 9, restore, conserve, and preserve our natural resources. But do it without punishing the very people who live and work and recreate here because they love this beautiful state. I will restore, conserve, and preserve our natural resources without punishing businesses, homeowners, boaters, farmers, watermen, or taxpayers, or anyone who gets rained on. I promise to do all these things, and I'm adding one more, number 10. I promise to protect your God-given rights, guaranteed by our Constitution. I will make sure they will not be infringed upon. You see, I believe the strength of our state lies with the individual, and that each person's dignity, freedom, ability, and responsibility must be honored and respected. So help me God. Thank you.